Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. I'm Jackie Tomes, and on this show we are having open and honest conversations about how you invest in property in a way that ultimately creates freedom. Everything from the big picture strategic right down to the operational and the mindset work that you've got to do along the way. And in this week's episode, myself and Dom are talking about success and what are the key themes that you see with successful people. And we've done a lot of our own informal market research over the years, watching many people go through various stages and seeing what we've learned from them, from our own personal experience. And Dom has also done a heck of a lot of reading in this area as well. So on this episode, we're talking about how getting the balance between lots of extremes is a really important part of the process. So you're going to love this one. Here's myself and Dom, all the way from Italy, talking about how to be successful. Hello, Dom.
Hello, Jackie, and hello to the audience.
Hello, and love from me and Dom together in Italy at the moment, where we're currently running our annual strategy retreat in the thick of it, feeling inspired,
energized, going through all sorts of sort of energetic changes and learning lots of ideas, and so many different people here. We've got Simon, Simona and Stacey and you and Dave and me and Rebecca, and it's like 7 experts for a group of 20 people, so it's quite a high proportion of amazing people around to help create transformation in people.
That's really amazing. And so we've been talking all about team this week. Team and relationships has been the focus for this week, and so in creating inspiration for the topic of today, we thought we'd talk more about like leadership as part of that team, and like the traits of maybe successful people as part of that.
Yeah, what are their characteristics?
The characteristics of successful people. And we just had a little brain dump before this, and some of them sound really nice and some of them don't sound so nice. So I'm excited to share this, because I think it's a quite an interesting reflection on the people that you work with when you're doing this, and also on yourself as well, and seeing what you maybe are doing that you haven't been consciously aware of, and what you've been consciously working on. So for you, Dom, which one stands out the most for you?
Well, it's the place I always start with any client, and what I look for in successful people, which I think people really will resonate with when they hear it, which is to say, people who are successful have absolute clarity about what they want. Think about it this way: you meet people, maybe kids, and they grow up and they say that they want to be a doctor, and forever they say they want to be a doctor. They become a doctor, and they know from a really early age, or they know for a long time what it is they want, and they keep sticking at it. So I think that's one thing that I would probably say maybe 95% of people, 80 to 95% of people aren't clear about what they want. I was facilitating journaling this morning. The first question I ask, what do you want? And actually, some people will know, and others will be like, oh yeah, I haven't thought about that for a while. Because they're just so in the sort of reactive mode of living rather than proactively going for what they want.
It's really interesting. It's almost because, like, for me, something I've been reflecting a lot on recently is people's perception of time as part of that. And I think some people are very much in the now, which is really nice, and I think you probably enjoy life a lot more. I think you're very present focused, which is really nice, and I think you're very happy because of it. But I think it's like to be able to see the future and to live a good chunk of your thought time in the future creates forces you to have clarity about something that does not currently exist. It might make you successful, but it probably also reduces happiness along the way, I would suggest.
Ooh, I'm sure Eckhart Tolle and the Buddhists wouldn't agree.
What, to be in the future?
Yeah, it's all about being in the now. Because in the future it's...
No, I mean, you're unhappy because you're being in the future.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah, the people who are present are happier, but maybe have less clarity about the future.
Got it.
The people who are in the future have a lot of clarity about the future, so maybe more successful, but less happy. So are you therefore less successful?
Oh.
More successful, I mean.
Deep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think really it's like the best version of it overall is that ability to be able to do both, to be able to see the future and conceptualize the future and spend time there, but not to get stuck there, and to be able to bring yourself to the present and almost let go of that planning, seeing what's going to happen in the future, and come back to enjoying then the process. And it's almost that ability to move between those two modes that probably makes successful and happy people.
Yes, I agree. And that works perfectly, because if you think about how time works, we've got the past, we've got the future, but then we've got this infinite present moment. And actually, if you only spend time in the infinite present moment, you're kind of not really being human, because we can think and remember the past, we can imagine the future, and that is part of being human too. So I think it's important that we do, spend time in both, and are conscious about getting clarity about the future, but also living in the now and enjoying the present. So that's a great one to start with.
So it's the clarity about what you want, and therefore what you want is probably going to be something in the future that you're going to be heading towards.
Yes.
And is there something like, does that clarity, what do you think that looks like? Is that like a clear seeing of what that looks like? Do you have any insights on that?
Well, actually, funny you should mention that, because I've been studying, thanks to Rebecca, a lot of human design recently, and people can more or less be in two camps. One is outer vision, and the other one is inner vision. So the descriptions would be someone who's got inner vision is very good at imagining. You can close your eyes and you can imagine what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, and you've got this image in your mind about what it is you want to create, and that's inner vision. Outer vision, and that's, I'd say this is more me, I need to see inspiring things, and then I spot what's missing, and I want to improve on it. Whereas if you give me a blank piece of paper, I wouldn't even know where to start. Whereas if you give me something inspiring to look at, something inspiring to go for, images, that's why I love using a vision board, then I can improve on that and add to it. And I think it's an interesting distinction to be aware of when it comes to getting clarity about what it is you want. Sometimes, particularly using human design, you need us generators, manifesting generators, which is 70% of the world, they need something to respond to. So actually being in that environment or seeing that beautiful thing helps you improve it, rather than sort of starting with a blank slate, which I think is more difficult for some.
Interesting. I'm sitting here thinking about, like, generally this idea of successful people, like, it's interesting, like, looking at the list of things, because you're doing a session covering these things, that it's not just a list of positive traits necessarily.
No.
And so it makes me kind of think about the ability to shift modes as being, in my opinion, a trait of a successful person, because you've kind of got to, if you think about like working on the business versus in the business, obviously as a business owner, you have to, particularly as a startup, small business owner, you have to do both.
Everything.
You have to do everything.
All the roles.
And it's really, really tough, and it isn't for everyone, for sure.
100%.
But that to be able to be, I think, successful in business is that ability to go, I can get my head down, get stuck in and do something, potentially something that I really do not even actually want to do, because I know it's important to the vision for where we're going. But I can also shut out the noise and focus on an important task that I know is a bigger picture priority that I need, maybe, from my perspective anyway, like I need space to be able to figure out how a system's going to be better, like create a better marketing strategy, like the kind of bigger tasks, Jackie's big tasks those fit into, in order to move us forward. And if you get stuck in either of those zones, you don't make any progress. Like if you're particularly, maybe later you do, as you are more like the visionary leader of a larger organisation. I think if you set it up right, you could be spending a large part of your time like dreaming and thinking and planning. But if you do that too early, nothing happens.
Absolutely.
And I have mentored people who are very amazing plans and big ideas, but don't really want to get stuck in.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we probably both know a mentor who is exactly that, brilliant with ideas, fantastic communicator, execution not quite so good. And there's, we were just talking over lunch actually with some of the group, there's tasks, there's management, and there's leadership. And as entrepreneurs, we have to do all three. And we have to really sort of almost wear a different hat on maybe different times of the week, different times of the day. Because, you referenced it as a task, Jackie's big task. I'd say that's more strategic leadership and visionary planning, which is a completely different headspace. And it needs that space, as you say, and creativity and time. You can't force it. I think it needs that space, as you mentioned, to be able for it to come through you and understand what needs to shift, and get perspective on things in order to change the direction of where the business is going, and also then engage and manage and make sure that the team are coming along too. So we have to do all of those things as part of working in the business and on the business with those different hats, and it's quite a big thing to juggle.
It's a really big thing, and I think it's like it's very practical, but it's also very emotional as well. Like for me, I've had to be very like strict with my time, and it doesn't happen once and it's done. Like you keep having to reset as the business grows and changes, or you go through a kind of a shrinking phase where you're consolidating and that changes. But like having that practical, for me, boundaries between what flavour of myself am I that day, and to be able to, as you say, like put that hat on that day and getting that in that zone and be that. And so that's very just organisational and practical versus the emotional part of being able to let go of the stuff that you're not doing on that day. And if you're prone to rumination or stress or worry, that's very hard to do, because it's a habit of just always thinking about the stuff that isn't maybe going right, or you're worried about, and therefore that kills the creativity or the focus on those other days.
I think, as per your book, Focus Your Way to Freedom, it really requires that clarity and that focus in order to make sure that you're working on the right thing at the right time and giving time for each of them. Because there's a tendency, I think we all have it, a tendency to want to do the things that we most enjoy, because that's where most in flow, it's easiest to do, or maybe it's what we're conditioned to doing. A lot of people, they grow up in an employment role, and they're not used to taking that level of responsibility or risk or strategic planning. They find it easier to just run with what they've got to do, and it's easier to go for small things and get small wins there and stay comfortable, rather than step out and take risks effectively.
So it's kind of like, it's, for me, there's kind of two things as part of this. It's that ability to be out of your comfort zone consistently, and the willpower to do stuff that you do not want to do.
Yes. Embracing the discomfort of going, I just have to push through and do this. And the thing is, if we didn't have discomfort, we wouldn't grow. And so it's so important that we embrace that discomfort. We embrace the things that we find difficult and go, no, it's right. This is a journey. I'm going to enjoy this, even if it's going to be hard. I know I'm growing. I know I can achieve this. And because I've achieved already, little areas where I've improved, whether it's my diet or fitness or in business, you managed to make more money, getting your first property. That self-esteem builds, the drive builds, because you've had success, and then you begin to motor, and you've got that consistent and persistent action taking, which is also another requirement of really successful people, that persistency and consistency.
Yeah, and it's that being able to do that over, you're right, like a long period of time, taking action. Because I think taking action, it actually gives me a bit of the ick when I say taking action, because it's kind of been taken, I think, by how to say this. Maybe some companies who are trying to get you to do something that they want you to do, to take action to do the thing that they have just used some manipulative tactics on you to get you to take that action. I think those of you who know what I mean will know what I mean. But that ability to do those actions week after week and not get burnt out from it, because I think sometimes it can almost be like intense taking action, and then you do so much that you wear yourself out, and then you go, I can't be asked for this, it's too hard, and you want to flip and flop to something new, rather than just going, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and just being week in, week out, consistently moving the right actions forward. So maybe I can caveat that, because I think that's also a problem with taking massive action. It doesn't say, am I taking the right goddamn action? Because if, some of the people that I see are the busiest and taking the most massive action are actually getting the worst results. Because it's not going, okay, what actions are actually the most important overall? And maybe there's some actions that you're not prioritizing. And if you don't take the time to stop and think and look at the bigger picture and say, with that bigger picture in mind, that clarity that I've got about where I want to go, what makes the best next step, the best next sense to do to move in that direction? And if you don't consistently stop, and I think that's a week in, week out reflection for sure, to do that, you will suddenly wake up and realise that you are completely not where you wanted to be.
Exactly. I think you've touched on a really important point here. A lot of people, what works for them doesn't necessarily work for you, and that's why knowing yourself is so important. I think the journey of getting to know your strengths, your weaknesses, what works best for you, the method in which you work, the timings in which you work, which is why we love using human design and other psychometric profiling tools. But the better you know yourself, the more you can be in flow, and then the hard work is enjoyable, rather than going, so I've been told to do this, therefore I must do this. And actually, it might not be right for them because it's not their natural way of being. So I think that's the old paradigm that's shifting now, is that training companies say, do this, get these results. That's the old school. Now it's about actually what's right for you, where are you best going to be in flow, who do you need to work with, what is the timing in which it's going to happen. Okay, now let's look at how it's going to happen. Rather than starting with the how. It's like, actually, let's work out the how once we know who you are. That's a profound shift that I think is happening.
I think you're right. I think it's amazing to have that much deeper understanding of yourself, because I think as a business owner, ideally you want to end up in complete alignment with yourself, doing what you're meant to be doing, in alignment with your energy and how you're meant to operate. That gives you that flow state. But along the way, you are going to have to be out of alignment to get the job done, because that is it's a massive bugbear and a concern that I just see way too many people just taking on the who not how far too literally, far too quickly. And then there's no either there is already not enough money and then there becomes minus money because everyone else is being paid first. And yes, it might not be that you don't want to do all those things, but actually you have to do those things. And if you are strategic about your approach to prioritization and doing the right stuff, you will get yourself out of those things that you don't want to do quicker. For me, that's getting that balance right. You're walking a tightrope. You're going to keep falling off each way.
Yeah, and I think it's being aware that it's not always going to go well. So even if businesses are going well, actually there's going to be a time at some point where things are going to slide, and that happens deliberately, effectively, because life is a frequency, like a wave. There's ups and downs, and it never always goes well, and it's designed that way because that's when we grow. So I think when it comes to that, I guess a lot of people start with what they want, which is great. Obviously, you've got to start with what you want, but then they base it on their success on the outputs rather than basing it on the inputs. And I think that's a profound way of thinking. You can't control how much money necessarily you're going to earn at the end of the month, but what you can control is what you're doing each day, and those inputs are the things that you should be measuring, not looking back and kind of going, well, yes, you can look back. I think there's the balance, isn't there? Yes, you should look back and go, why didn't that work, and refine. But don't base your success or be attached to the outcome, because you can't control the outcome, but you can control the inputs, the things you do. So that's what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And therefore it's just being really intentional about what those things are that you're doing, and to be able to kind of conceptualize how that input will lead towards that output. It's making me think as well about patience and impatience. I'm kind of actually conceptualizing this list more of like a table where it has almost potentially the two extremes on each side, because I think to be successful, it is a marathon, not a sprint. Yes. But if you just think about it like a marathon and never sprint, you're not really going to get there. So again, it's just this ability I feel potentially successful people can just move between these things where they're like, I have this underlying patience to go the distance and to not go up, to not give up.
Right.
But then I also have this short-term drive to make things happen, because as that, obviously we're thinking about successful people in the concepts of really within business and property here, right? Like, you've got to be able to start the thing going, and to get that going, it requires a huge amount of energy to do that, and so that's kind of an impatience to get going.
Yes, that's right. And it's sometimes it's quite easy to get going. There's like a honeymoon period of starting your business or getting into property, and actually it sort of tails off a bit like a honeymoon does, and after marriage and other things. But you have to keep showing up at your best each day, even when you don't feel like it. But the more you show up and keep that drive relatively consistent with sprints and slower times, then you'll get there eventually. It makes me think of, there's a quote, it's like, you can have anything you like in the world in 5 years on two conditions. One, you know what you want, clarity, and two, you take action every day together.
It sounds so ridiculously
it's so nice and simple, doesn't it? It's kind of true. And actually maybe the best things are simple and true, but then there's the reality of being human and all the other stuff that happens to you. But maybe not using that as an excuse as well. So, because we always make lots of excuses why we don't do things.
And I think that the irony is if you were to then commit to that over 5 years and to do it, and to stop thinking too short term, because it is all about what I'm doing this year.
Yes.
But, you know, you always hear, you know, these wise business gurus who've been doing this for decades go, like, it's not what you achieve in a year. Is it Richard Branson that said that initially? I don't know. It's not what you do in 1 year, it's what you can do in 10 years.
Yes.
That is where the real magic happens. But we cannot really conceptualise, most of us, 10 years in our mind, like it's too far ahead.
Definitely.
So just being able, and I'm seeing it myself now, like I could never have conceptualised being here. I think it's like 12 years since we started. I could never have conceptualised what we have now. And it's starting, you know, I think it's all those seeds that you sow over that time that don't come to fruition yet, but they are growing. So to just, that's like that consistency and that patience, that sticking with it, to know that it's the getting, I don't know, I think it was staying on the bus.
Yes.
So I think it's Oliver Berkman in 10,000 Weeks.
Okay.
He talks about, I think it's in Finland, in Helsinki, like you can get on a bus in the centre of Helsinki, and if you stay on it long enough, you get to some really amazing places.
Right.
But it's a long
drive.
freaking way. But so most people, you know, in the metaphor of business, they get on the bus, they get bored of being on that bus because it's taking a while, so then they get on another bus. And if you keep changing buses, you just go round and round Helsinki, which is nice, but not like wow. But if you get on one bus, you know, you weigh it all up, you choose your bus, you have the clarity about which bus is right. I'm going to get on the B1 bus and I'm going to stay on it to the end. Like, you just end up in these like awe-inspiring, amazing places that are beyond your wildest comprehension. And I think that's a very nice metaphor for staying focused in business, consistent.
Yeah, consistent. And I guess in order to stay consistent, we have to continually learn new things and get input as well, which obviously sometimes is a distraction, but it's also a refinement of hopefully who we're becoming. So, you know, is it like I forget if it's like a rocket, you know, every second or so it's rerouting, it's, you know, it's just adjusting its path. And I think that's the thing, you're not really on one path, you're on a potential of different paths, but it's about readjusting on a regular basis. So that clarity is a refinement over time, you know, on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, that you're always refining where you're going with the new knowledge that you're gaining, with the new insights, with the new inputs, with the new communication, you know, challenges that are coming your way. All of those things are affecting your direction, but I guess it's being open to it and making sure you're getting the right inputs, because
it's another duality for me, really. It's like you have to be open and closed at different times. Like, you've got to at various points open up your peripheral vision and go, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm slightly off course here, let me go over there, and I'm just going to shut down for just a little bit and just only do that. There are some clients that I work with where we have great conversations, we look at the bigger picture, we choose the direction, and then off the back of that conversation they walk away and start second guessing themselves and going, oh, was that the right decision? And other ideas come in and then nothing happens. And I do think it's one of the things that Dave and I have been really good at is deciding where we want to go, choosing a direction and just going with it. Like, for a certain amount of time, just go with it. And often, particularly, I would say it's more me than Dave that spots where we're off route. I'm like, that was the one example, years ago with a deal, a commercial conversion deal that we'd agreed to do. For us, it was massive, you know, in comparison. I can't remember, maybe like 10 flats or something. At that point, we were in the midst of doing a 4-unit conversion, which had started off very well. And as many of you have probably heard the story, it ended very badly. If you've read the book, it ended very badly. But we're in the middle of that project. And whilst it started well, it didn't end well. And so whilst we're on the course of doing that project, I become aware that this is obviously not going that well. We've also agreed to buy this other project, which is even bigger. And if this one is starting to get off track, what could that mean for the future one? And is that the right time to do it? At this point, we probably sunk $7,000 of costs into this next deal. And so Dave is much better. He's much more tenacious than I am to just staying the course. And so I'm often opening the conversation to Dave going, I think we should back out of this. And Dave's initial reaction is always like, oh no, we should push through. But he is always open enough to discuss it and consider it. And we did subsequently pull out of it. And it's probably one of the best £7,000 I've ever spent not going forward to do that deal.
Wow.
It was not the right time and subsequent. And also, it wasn't the right thing for us to be doing. Like, it was not in alignment with where we were meant to be going. And so therefore, being open to the fact that you are on the right path but also on the wrong path, but then closing off for long enough to not be questioning it every hour of every day.
Yes. Are there any tips around how to make sure that you don't make the wrong decisions, I guess?
Well, there are no wrong decisions, right? Like, if you make it and it goes wrong, it was what was meant to happen and there was something that you were meant to learn.
Yes.
Like, the quote-unquote wrong decisions that we made have been the biggest learning experiences, which have guided where we are today.
Yes.
And maybe arguably we wouldn't have the freedom we have today without those mistakes. So there are no wrong decisions. It's just finding that balance to just, I guess, listening to that intuition more along the way, because I think sometimes you have a bit of a bad feeling about something, and for me, I've generally been better at listening to it, but not great. And Dave has been worse than I have, and he's getting better and better and better. It's amazing. Yeah. But because he was much stronger to push through with a plan that was agreed, he would be quite easily able to override my intuition, and I would just find kind of rollover's too strong a word, but that kind of idea.
Right.
So for me, standing by my intuition very strongly is something that I'm getting better and better at.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I remember Dave a few years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, saying, if the numbers stack, do the deal. And 100%, they're absolutely right. But
what if it feels bad?
What if it feels wrong? And then you've got that intuition, which I think sometimes younger people maybe, I don't know, younger people are becoming more attuned as well. But I think it's just tapping into that innate wisdom that we all have, that sometimes we've overridden for too long. But actually, the more we get in touch with who we are, and that's why we love doing meditation, that's why we've got energy healers here, teaching us to become more sensitive to our intuition, so that, we get that sort of guidance from within that is kind of helping us, nudge us in the right direction. So there is that balance of, yes, logically, these stack, but for some reason it doesn't feel right. Actually, always go with your intuition, because I think, well, you can try and ignore it and see what happens, or you can go, I knew that, I knew it at the time, why didn't I listen to my gut?
And I think you're right, like developing your ability to sense the difference between intuition and fear. If every deal that you look at you have a bad feeling about, is that your intuition, or is that just your fear response kicking in and holding you in your comfort zone? And it is a journey of discovery to answer that question. But most of us have pushed down our intuition for so long. Maybe not the younger generation, maybe they're more open to it, but like people who are been doing it, we've been told that feeling is not valid, so we can't distinguish between fear and intuition. So again, just being open to that.
That leads me on to the thought that one of the key characteristics, I think, of successful people is that ability to communicate and influence, but not just communicate with your team and the people you work with, solicitors, builders, etc., but also internally, communication with yourself and how you talk to yourself, that mental self-talk that we have, and our emotions and our physical bodies and even our spiritual bodies. There isn't just one you, there's kind of multiple versions of you. So that communication internally and externally, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're so right. And I'm very unaware of the internal communication, and being unaware of it, the more aware I've become, the more I'm like, oh my God, I'm an arsehole to myself. And in a way, it's funny because this is a conversation that I've had a lot recently with mentees. We think that the mean internal voice is what is getting us to make progress. So many successful people who've gotten to a certain point believe that if they weren't nasty internally to themselves, or they didn't have the feeling of stress, that they would not do anything. They have this fear that they'd be a lazy bum doing nothing. And that's definitely been my experience, and I just see it in all the people that I work with, where they get to a certain point and they're struggling to kind of make progress, and that's when you've kind of got to start considering this shift from stress and pressure and being an arsehole to yourself and realizing that you can actually be nice to yourself and stuff. Inspiration can come from a good place, not a like whipping, stressful place. And I think it's like, I think some companies are building cultures that are much more conscious and helping people to come from more of an inspired, inspirational place. But the old school way is stress.
Yes.
You turn up on time, you don't do a good job, you get told
Yes.
off, and like they lead with fear. But actually, the far more powerful, magnetic version is to lead with inspiration, and actually that requires a softer, kinder, loving voice. It doesn't mean that we accept mediocrity. It doesn't mean that we accept not good enough, or that any person can come along and we're just going to be really nice even if you're really shit. Like, that's not okay. No. But like the people that are the right people for us, we encourage them to create a kinder relationship with themselves, and in so doing that, we can get so much more out of ourselves, out of the people that we work with. But you have to let go of the mean voice, and there's kind of, my experience of that was almost like it's like a pendulum, two sides of a pendulum. The lovely, kind, supportive voice on one side, and the like absolute arsehole boss on the other side. And this is all inside your own head. To go from the nasty version to the nice version, you have to swing through the middle, which is kind of nothingness. And I kind of felt quite lost in that letting go of that nasty voice for a while, and I kind of thought that I'd lost my energy and I'd lost my motivation. So it's not an easy process to go through, but coming out the other side of it, work is more fun, life is more fun, I'm kinder to myself, and I'm kinder to others, and more patient. So that was a long answer to a very short question, Dom.
Yeah, but it was very profound on many different ways, and it reminds me of a book I've read recently about, and it's this very, very spiritual guy, but he says, it's fine to dislike things, it's fine to occasionally talk negatively to yourself, because it's part of being human. And I guess it's a reminder to everyone is that we live in this world of duality. You can't have one thing without its other. So you will be nasty to yourself occasionally, but it's spotting that. It's having the self-awareness to spot that and not swing completely the other way and sort of, maybe avoid, because that's the thing about certain spiritual people. I wonder, when they're sort of just like, everything's cool, man, and actually they're not really taking responsibility, they're not really taking action to further themselves, and maybe they don't want to, but I don't know, it's I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, there's duality, you can't have one thing without the other, so therefore balancing it is key.
And we are humans on this earth for a reason. Like, we aren't like gods floating in the cloud or whatever, like in the heavens. So for me, again, is that balance of being able to not be so caught up in this humanness and life and the worries of all of it, that we get stress and anxiety, but not so caught up in just being in the heavens that we just like sit in a wood and don't do anything. Like, I'm not sure. Like, surely there's a balance, otherwise we'd be doing this maybe in some other place. Like, there's got to be something worth doing here with the human experience, which if we're just sitting totally on our own, is that really us getting? I don't know. That's a question, not a statement.
My thoughts on that is that, yes, we are here. We are part of consciousness, and we're here to experience the world. Therefore, that internal drive that we have to experience the world will manifest in wanting to experience new things. So many people I speak to, one of their biggest things is, I want to travel. Why do they want to travel? Because they want to experience new life, new ways of being, new experiences, and their brain is actually in a different state. And I think that maybe that's the thing. Actually, we're moving now from a world of fear to one of more flow and being and experiencing without the fear that has for so long held so many of us back. We just touched on it yesterday with human design, how actually there's a couple more energy centers that have appeared in human body, and actually we don't need to be led by fear in the same way that we were in the past, because there's far less
not lions
dangers
around the corner for most of us.
Yeah, there we go.
Shall we, I'm the one that made me laugh most on your list of thoughts for this was low tolerance.
There we go.
Tell me about that one, Dom, and tell me Jackie's examples of this one.
It is a characteristic of successful people, because it goes very, very nicely with clarity, right? If you know what you want, then you don't tolerate things that you don't want, and also you don't tolerate not good enough. It needs to be the best it can be, and not perfectionism, but just low tolerance for shit. Sorry, excuse my language, but if you're putting up with something, you're allowing it into your life. So whether it's a not very good relationship, whether it's sort of not getting paid that you want, or whatever it might be, if you're tolerant of something, that's what you're going to get. So if we raise our level of what we're willing to tolerate, then life will respond. And you're very good at that. You go for what you want, and
I'm sure not necessarily always pleasant whilst I'm executing on it, and I'm not always definitely the most elegant.
But then, yeah, look, that's you, and it's our problem if we have an issue with it.
I love you, Dom. This is why you tolerate me.
There we go. Yeah.
Amazing. So what would you say then is your main takeaway that you want people to have off the back of this?
So off the one about tolerance is the saying that I think I've shared before, but I'll say it again. So you have to go after the life you want, or you're going to have to settle for the life that you get. And that's a big thing that hit me almost this time last year, basically, when I decided to leave my marriage. And I wanted to go for something better than what I had. And I didn't want to put up with what I was getting and having, and, you know, a partner that didn't want to work. So, yeah, I think it's not easy. But if you want to live a better life, understand that it's going to be uncomfortable. And that's why get used to being uncomfortable. So I think in summary, yeah, the clarity is a big one. Low tolerance goes with it very nicely. Communication with yourself, but also externally to your team and the people you work with. Those are the sort of main three that I would say you need to get right. What about you?
For me, my main takeaway is this like duality of a lot of these points, and just almost slight living at the extremes is my kind of takeaway, to be able to be so patient to keep going, but so impatient that you don't accept what's not good enough. Yes. So visionary about where you're going, but so able to get on and execute. And I think there's many more examples of that. So I think for me, interestingly, it's kind of comes down to a lot of the work that Simon and Simona and Stacey help a lot with, which is and if you don't know who we're talking about by those guys, there are episodes with these guys as part of the podcast. It's nervous system dysregulation. Like, if we can't move between these different extremes, we are basically stuck in fight or flight, or maybe even stuck in the opposite, where you've kind of got apathy and you can't do anything. And we kind of need to be able to switch between those two things as part of our day-to-day experience. So that for me is like a kind of very practical point that actually ends in a much more health energetic point, really.
Yes. It's all the balance.
It's all about balance. So maybe ask yourself, where are you stuck in an extreme, and what is the maybe balancing opposite that maybe you're not paying any attention to, or that you judged, and that you might be not giving the time and attention it deserves to give you that overall balance to move yourself forwards.
And one last point, just because I'm about to do a presentation on it, but we are stronger when we're surrounded by other people, when we have relationships with other people. So the question I'd love to leave with the audience is, who do you need to bring into your life, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's someone to work with, or it's an employee, business partner, whatever it might be, but who do you need to bring into your life to make it a little bit better and help you grow in that area and succeed in that area?
That was really fun to record. If you want to find out more about our Deal Maker Accelerator program, head on over to our website, property-strategy.com/DMA for Deal Maker Accelerator. And we're working with investors who've already got some experience of doing deals, started to raise finance, but are struggling to get the volume of deals done and the amount of finance raised that's required to hit the targets, to create the cash flow, and then ultimately to do it in a way that's ultimately going to create freedom. So if you want some help in those areas and to support some of the aspects that we've spoken about on the conversation today, then head on over to our website and find out more about how you can apply. This time next week, we're going to be joined by the incredible Dan Anson and James Baker from Cornwall Living Property. These guys have had an incredible journey in property. They've raised over 16 million in private finance, done a ton of property projects, and they're going to be talking very candidly about their biggest lessons. So you're definitely going to want to join us for that. Until then, have a great week ahead.